Hey there, I'm Nate. I write and illustrate a webcomic with my wife Elise, and we call it Waymaker Chronicles. Over the past 10 years, we've taken turns running role-playing games in the varied settings of our comic, as a way to tell more stories in the worlds we imagine together. At first, it was just us, and then little brothers, and a few brave friends, but more recently, the community has grown, and we've started running those games for others, online. One of my favorite worlds is a sci-fi one called Havien. It is one of the first worlds we see in the comic, and one of the ones with the most developed world building so far because of it. The intent of this video is to educate newcomers to the setting, and potential future players who want to try their own story in the frigid world of Havien. This will be a short series going over the 3 playable species, one of them having 3 main subcategories. And today, the subject is the most populous and typical people on Havien, the Kamen'Ha. Kamen are feline-like mammals. They have heightened senses compared to humans. Pointed ears, tails, and retractable claws. They're also very heavy. The higher gravity of their world led to the local species having more robust frames, very dense bones, strong, stout muscle. I'll be making a character for each of the playable races as an example. When I make a character from scratch, there are so many details that go into who they are, what they do, and where they're from, that all those cool little details that explain a bit about the world they're in and what their life is like kind of come together to form a very distinct image. And I think that'll help me explain something about the world that I hope will be more useful to you in making your own characters in the setting. With this character, I wanted to make sure that it was clear that this is a common noble. Nobility in common society is just as the word implies. It's a term given to indicate people who go beyond the interests of their own survival and dedicate themselves to a task or a calling. In this case, I think our guy will be a builder or engineer. In the Barren White region, people who can remember how to operate complex tech are very few and far between, so this would be like a noble calling that would be appreciated by nomadic tribes or greater cities. Kamen'Ha with similar callings tend to group into clans, which operate something like task forces. They adopt emblems, distinct color-coded attire, so that they can be easily recognized and called upon when the time comes, which is often, as Ha tend to live in large groups. They're very community-oriented, so many people with specializations coming together serve the entire group. This clan, as I'm drawn here, will have a very stylized symbol of a tent. As they specialize in the construction of shelters. The Kamen regularly use a few technologies that are popular. The pack device, they're on his hip, and Firestone weapons. Firestone being a hard obsidian-like crystal that burns very hot and blue when affected by moisture. The sheath that I drew for it actually has a vent on the side, you'll see. The idea there being that when you sheath your weapon, it vents the excess moisture, keeping your blade lasting longer. As for pack devices, they are incredibly useful for storage, as they can accelerate an object into energy and contain it. You can use that energy to power systems, but also simply as a form of storage. Though returning an object from a pack often distorts the form somewhat. Food comes back almost flavorless, so most people don't store food in them. Though, I mean, it's still food, it's rations, and it lasts. But beyond that, also delicate tools and machinery get shifted and might become unusable, or at least not as precise as they would be. So this engineer would probably only keep blueprints in his pack for basic tent frame structure, nails, a few blocks and boards of different materials that would be handy, but his tools will be in a pouch or loops on his belt. This guy will be a little older, and he has a few bits of practical knowledge that'll be useful in his time period, where people have forgotten a lot of what was once known. It's something that happens when due to the chaos of an alien invasion coming to your planet, shattering societies sending people running and killing off most of the older population, the ones that knew things. With that, I'll throw some whiter hairs here and there, which is not uncommon. Uncommon for common. It's not typical. It's not atypical. It's very normal. Common tend to have... they're a very homogeneous species visually. They often have light-colored fur and eyes. They're hard to tell apart at a distance, which is why they wear such bright colors. Some of them will use dyes to decorate their clothing and also their hair to differentiate themselves, but not this engineer. He's more utilitarian. He keeps his hair cropped short so as to not get caught in his tools, and even his clothing has few loose parts that might get snagged. I'll give him a small, dangly piece of jewelry tied to his tail, out of the way, but that's a cultural necessity. Bear and white common wear jewelry of different shapes, color, and body locations to denote their romantic availability. When your population is decimated by aliens, knowing who is ready to repopulate is rather important. With this gentleman, will indicate that he's a busy guy, but he has some time that he sets aside for a significant other. It's simple, it's subtle, it's just a little bit just there. I'm also giving him some sandals. Most common either don't wear shoes or wear very simple cloth wraps on their feet. But for someone who's a construction worker, who's around loose tools and equipment and the occasional nails sticking up out of the ground, I feel like a custom pair of sandals would at least be a small amount of PPE that he would wear. And I think that will settle him. For the continuation of this series, I'll draw a quick comparison. I'm going to do a size chart, I think. Once I finish here, I got to make sure that his pack glows with its blue light. Put little highlights on stuff. I'm going to make a small little wireframe man. We're going to name him Human. And this will be the average kind of human height. And we'll set that up there. Now, this Kamen'Ha engineer, for reference, is only about 3'5", which is a respectable average to tall height for a male Ha. Ladies tend to be a little bit shorter in their species, and yeah, I think that'll work. We'll just set him up right there. Yeep. Good. Okay. Anyway, there we have it. There's the first in the series of playable races for Havien. Thank you for joining me again today. Elise and I have been working on these stories for a long time, and they're really just things that we do for us, at first, at least. We make them because we like telling stories together and making up cool creatures and thinking about what their lives would be like. We're always incredibly grateful to be surrounded by people like yourselves who also enjoy our stories. And if these stories are the kind of things that you would like to see more of, hit all the YouTube buttons, you know where they are, and give our Patreon a visit. I'll put the link down in the description for you. A special thanks, speaking of, to all the Waymaker patrons, and especially the Skycat tier patrons. You know who you are. You guys make all of this possible. It's a great time to be an indie creator, and we have you to thank for it and the continued support. And we'll call it here. Next time, I'll draw and tell about the next playable character race, the much larger and more savage cousins of the Kamen'Ha, the Ro, the Kamen of the Fields. Until then, I'll catch you next time.